Hello. Yeah, it's me again. Gee, it's really interesting. I put these tapes up on YouTube, and a friend of mine put it on his Facebook page, and I sent it directly to places like CTV News, CBC, Huffington Post, New York Times. Here's a whole list where I sent links to these videos. And apparently this isn't news. I told you, everybody knows what's going on. Anyway, so I need to figure out a way to get this as a news story. So, hey, how about this? Justin Trudeau, you love boxing. You like boxing for public awareness and raising money and stuff. I, Chris Bacon, a disabled Canadian, independent Canadian citizen, see as you won't take it any other way as far as, hey, there's a problem here, Mr. Trudeau. I challenge you to a boxing match, 3 rounds on the Parliament Hill, to raise awareness about what's really going on with disability in this country. And maybe we could raise some money, for that reading comprehension public service announcement we need to do in order to, make sure that politicians and judges and all those people not only get the reading skills enhanced, but especially your comprehension skills. So how about this? For charity. We'll raise money for charity, and I'd like to raise awareness about what's really going on in this country of ours. I'm an independent Canadian citizen. You're a liberal. You're like Brazeau. You've been very well trained, and you've got your physicality about you. Me, I'll be like you, the underdog coming in, barely able to hold my hands above my waist. And let's have it out, shall we? It'll just be mock anyway, right? Just like you mock the legal system and mock everything else. Anyway, no, this is a serious challenge. I would really like to challenge Mr. Trudeau, or hey, how about the Justice Minister? Or how about the Public Safety Minister? Any of you guys who are responsible to make sure that people in Canada are safe and that the legal system works for everybody, hey, pick up the challenge. We can get gloves. We can do our camera moment. You could have your media sensation, and I'm not sure. I'll probably lose. Maybe I should fight your wife. Hey, Sophie, would you put on a pair of gloves and get it? No, actually, that's too much. It makes me look like I'd be beating up on women or something. No, that's okay. Anyway, Justin, you're like what, 6 foot something? You've had that Brazeau incident where you were able to go up there and raise money. So is this not pertinent? Proper representation under the law in line with international rights, like the ones we've signed on to. Anyway, I'm going to send this one out to the news agencies and see. So my name's Chris Bacon. I'm a person with a disability. I've just accused the Canadian government of international criminal rights violation, human rights violation, based on pick any of the international human rights agreements we've signed on to for the last several years, but pay particular attention to the UN Protocol on Disability Rights. And that's the one, again, that Accessibility Ontarians with Disabilities Act and all these other window dressing acts by this fictitious government. The one that says the rules and regulations are just there to be picked and choose between, but laws are important. Anyway, I don't know what their problem is, but, well, everybody does. It's called shock and awe. They're not doing what they're supposed to, and none of them are acting in good faith, and none by the law. And it's really curious how my accusation of censorship in the news is being proven. Because, again, how can this not be a news story? Here we have, how are disabled people treated in Canada? And hi, it's me, disabled guy, Franken Bacon, the one who that's going to show up in court next time. And from now on, all I'm doing is giving my name. I'd give my serial number, but then that'd be privacy gone. Everybody my social insurance number. So I got to figure that one out. Maybe I'll give the case file number, name, case file number, and rank. And I will not answer anything else other than, excuse me, but you are in violation of international and domestic human rights laws. And I refuse to participate in this what would it be? I guess it's persecution of disabled, and you know, like have Herr Harper or Herr Trudeau, I guess now, please, you know, step up and abide by international law, because from now on I'm only looking at international law. If you fail to provide me the means to have my case properly written down, which goes to facing my accusers, because my accusers in record is saying that I'm a liar, to the point where they are interfering with my ability to get any representation or health care. So if that's not hardship, what the hell is? Anyway, so let's try this one. Again, Justin, you like prominence, and you like, I mean, this is a very big one to raise awareness. I mean, disabled in Canada are less than. We're less than regular citizens. We're less than missing and murdered Aboriginal women and children. Yeah, we got to wait our 300 years of paying money in the legal system to get the rapporteur out here, which will be blocked for 3 months, so that we can get a report, and maybe now we can start getting, what, we got to wait till that's all done to get our part in the budget, right? You know, especially when it comes to medical care and all the fraud that's going on. You guys are making a lot of money in medical care. Uh, you call it medical care, but I should say medical insurance, and also the legal business. You know, the law is there to produce more business, but never get any answers. So, you know, I'm calling you everyone on their bullshit. Hey, Supreme Court of Canada, you know, Justice Minister, all you Chief Justices, you know, all you people who can't read properly and don't understand what it means for accessibility. I'm going to lend you my services as part of the first part of the public service announcement. I've decided what I'll do is I'll take the main document about accessibility in the courts, and I will provide my. I used to read to my kids when I was young, when they were younger. So what I'm hoping is I will just I will read it online, and I invite any of you judges or people who don't have the time, please bring it home with you or sign on my channel before you go to sleep, and I will read it to you while you're asleep, and maybe that way you can pick up on some of it. Or maybe you could just have it as a bedtime story before you go to sleep, or maybe get up in the morning while you're having coffee. You know, you could hear me read it then. Um, I'll save you the time of reading it, just in case you have problems with words, big words like the and it and law and justice. You know, if you have trouble with words like that, like equality, um, you know, disability, duty to accommodate to the point of hardship. Now, I guess that's hardship on the court, because it would really be hard on the court and the legal system if this were to be written down and brought into a proper venue, because then, and especially a court, like a criminal court, because a criminal court has the ability to, yeah, they may not do punitive, but they certainly have the ability, and this is my thing, if the employer would have been brought before a criminal court under the auspices of he wasn't acting in good faith, well, then that judge could sit there and say, hey, you know what, you really don't get the idea of being responsible for other people's safety. So therefore, this court orders that you will never, ever, ever again oversee or have responsibility for overseeing workers ever again. And if you are, you will be thrown in jail. Oh my God, isn't that that's how the law is supposed to work? And that's what they mean by acting in good faith, which means the government will act using those rules and guidelines they like to ignore and cookie cutter over streamline because of this collaborative law. But it's not conspiracy. It's not conspiracy. No, we don't fix everything to make sure that you know, you have no chance in hell. The game's not rigged. Don't worry. It's not a court. It's not a. Oh, by the way, I also need to make corrections. When I was saying community legal clinic about seeking medical help, that was actually community legal, or not community legal, community health clinic on Francis Street. And we tried to go through St. John Kitchen, because they have a little nurses stations there, which helps homeless people and stuff like that, and directs them to where they want to go, like Canadian Mental Health. Oh, we can't have you out there telling the truth. Anyway, look at my other tapes. The other thing too is, yeah, I've said a lot of things about judges and stuff like that, but you know what? And again, respect. And I'm sorry, Madam Justice Hardman. I believe that's how you say it. Um, it's solely because of my familiarity of speaking with others in the industry around the courthouse that that's how you refer to as. By the way, I referred to you last time, and I'm sorry. If anything else, you know, I may not get respect from the legal community, but I certainly do give respect to those that deserve it or seem to. Gee, it'd be a real surprise if all of a sudden you're sitting on my case. Hey, wouldn't that be something, eh? No, that wouldn't work anyway. The only way this is going to work is if somebody, anybody, you know, you study big law books and stuff like that, that you start dealing with the main issue, which is I have the right to be heard. I have the right to privacy. People keep telling me go get my family to write it down for me or my roommate. I'm sorry, nowhere in the Constitution or in any of the rule books does it say that you have the right to do that. Because again, I am an individual. I am the individual of which you're speaking of these rights. I am the individual who has the right to be heard and to face my accuser. And my accusers for 12 years have been calling me the liar. You know, so what other venue do you take this to? Because my basis is none of them are acting in good faith, so that puts it right where we are. And that's a pretty damning accusation. So, you know, I mean, anyway, watch the tapes. Use your own real life experience, especially when talking about dealing with the medical community. Anybody else out there have problems with getting answers from the medical community? Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, there's somebody I do need to say something to. Hi, Debbie Weber and everybody else out there. I am really sorry to hear about what happened to Mark. Was it Mark? I actually know these people. I grew up with these people. We went to school, and then they chased me to another school. Actually, no, just kidding. No, they're great people, wonderful family, um, good heart, and they know what family's about. You know, you can tell that. But I've been in my own crap here, and I've you know been a little bit self-centered. But I did hear about what happened to Mark, and most unfortunately, I was actually coming out of the courthouse the last time, and I ran into Tom O'Neill. And Tom informed me that Mark had passed. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about when dealing with the medical community when you were trying to get your answers. Um, anyway, that's not the issue. It's not about the politics. That's a very hard thing to do, and to lose somebody as good as Mark. You know, I mean, he was no saint, but he was a hell of a human being, and almost a saint, I guess. I haven't talked to you guys in years. Um, anyway, I'm sure this is another example. And please, people who have your own stories about dealing with these people in the medical community / legal bullshit, um, you don't have to come out and tell your whole story. But I mean, I think if we started coming out and telling the truth about our own examples, I'm hoping to set an example here because the idea is to start the conversation. The idea is to stop letting them control the bullshit and come out here and tell some truth. Like if there's other people in old age homes, you've been getting assaulted lately, you know, understaffed. Again, medical problem is about the legal aspect. You know, only a psychiatrist. So having nurses running around and you know with the police going, well, I talked to a psychiatrist. That doesn't cut it. That's more of this. We're getting past the liability part, and SIU doesn't look at the part that, or anybody else, where it says that the only one who can say psychosis is a psychiatrist. So what that would mean is that Waterloo Regional Police Services and the hospital and the legal system should be sharing the cost of full-time, 24/7 psychiatrists on staff to be on call so that they can diagnose. And if it's a psychotic episode, there is other strategies, especially when the person's only threatening to harm themselves. What? Oh, we gotta wait a little while and talk this guy down, or let's just shoot him now with 7 bullets and call him nuts, and say that well we were saving the society because this is just a damning thing, and yet they're the ones who are doing it because of the way they are ignoring the rules and regulations when it comes to prescriptions. Because let's be clear, if a doctor is looking for a drug to prescribe, and he comes to the prognology that says you cannot prescribe this unless they're under the care of a psychiatrist. Well, then they go to the person, they say, do you have a psychiatrist? No. Do we have one available for you? No. Well, then it's illegal for him to write that script from that moment on. Same thing with clinical psychologists. Oh, is there ongoing counseling this person get? Because it says in conjunction with, which means you're taking the meds and you have somebody to talk to. You go into some place like KW Counseling, and I need to make clarification about that as well, into KW Counseling, and they do have services that will be provided for you. Matter of fact, KW Counseling Services on King Street every Thursday has an open door policy where it's for the community. You come in if you have a problem. You can talk to somebody right away. It's not, like I said before, it's not always the same person. That's not KW Counseling's fault. This is part of everybody's got together with this parental kind of idea, and they haven't come up with basic things like, okay, they've got people training through colleges or universities come through the door to be the people for Thursdays, where you get a new clinical psychologist every week. They have to explain over and over and over again to new people because that's just the way they do it. You're not allowed to see the same person again unless you get on the regular counseling schedule. So and again, they're providing a very valuable service. I'm not I'm a firm believer that if you complain about something, you don't just want to complain about it, you want to talk about the real issues and hopefully provide some sort of solution or direction to what I feel or whoever feels, because we're all entitled to our opinion. It may not be right, but I think I've got a little bit more wherewithal because I'm a person with a disability. There's another question too. You know how they like talking about stakeholders? We've joined all the stakeholders in medicine, and we've decided to make policy, or we've got all the stakeholders in the law, or stakeholders in that. Well, how about stakeholders for Workplace Safety Insurance Board? Let me ask you something. Are any of the people on the board an injured worker? Are any of these stakeholders an injured worker or a worker like me who's had to go through crap like this for misunderstandings and stuff like that, or whatever you want to call it? You call it misunderstanding. Oops, we overlooked that one. Call it whatever you want. But am I considered a stakeholder or somebody like me? How about for disability? When you're talking about disability, like arts disability law, is there any disabled people, especially poor disabled people, that have gone through any kind of this experience, and are they able to put input into how policy is made, directed, or however? Are we a stakeholder? How about in medicine? Is there any patients? Not patients organizations, because again, that's an association of people who claim to speak for people. I'm talking about actually going and interviewing people who stay in old age homes, or what do you call it? Continuing care. People who use the system. Are we stakeholders? The thing is that the real answer to this is no. We are not stakeholders. Stakeholders are the ones that cut the cows up and eat the steak. We are the commodity. We are the steak that they're talking about. Stakeholders, and we're the steak. Which is why, again, if you're paying attention, a lot of these policies are meant to be about the mob, about the herd. They're using herd mentality, social politics, and other, especially this. What's going on with the news? I mean, Edward R. Murrow must be rolling over in his grave right now. I mean, what is that? That's just a token thing now? Where, it was given out for excellence in news reporting, and it's who, what, when, why, where, and how. Right? We were always taught that. I mean, they drilled into school. I used to get 10% off my mark because I didn't answer one of those questions. That's at advanced level or whatever. I don't know what anyway. They got something for everybody, don't they? That's why it's called school. Do you remember why it's called a school? because it's short for school of thought. So when you go to a public school of thought, they train you in behavior modification and everything. And they're taking them earlier. What, they want them at 3.5 now or something? Because those young minds must be developed. Anyway, yeah, Big Brother. Anyway, yeah, go back to sleep. We'll wake you up when it's over. Anyway, yeah, Justin, hey, I can't lift my arms up very much, but it's just for charity anyway, right? 3 rounds. We can get together on Parliament. We can get all your news buddies there. I mean, you're beating me up in public. I mean, I'm getting beat up in the courthouse. I'm getting beat up in the hospitals. I'm getting beat up by the cops, figuratively and metaphorically, and actually, you know. So hey, you might as well have your round. It's a good way to show awareness. You know, we could bring maybe we could bring prominence to international human rights laws. You know how, oh, it's not just about the Accessibility Ontarians with Disabilities Act or whatever comes off of that, which is supposed to be from the UN Protocol on Disability Rights, which is all those things about, oh, you had to have a disability minute, like person in charge of disability. And lo and behold, so you do know, I mean, it's proof that the act is there and that you're aware of it because you certainly made sure that your disability minister was in place. And it was supposed to be just a regular under deputy person, but you made him a minister, and I would imagine that's because of Charbonneau again, because a lot of people don't understand. If you're made a minister, you can do whatever the hell you want. You'll never get charged. Remember that thing about King Chrétien? You know, I have very nice buzz. And Mr. Harper, or no, gee, I keep getting those two mixed up. Harper, Mulrooney, Harper. You know, and again, I've been pulling some punches. You know, the colorful language and stuff like that. Yeah, okay. Maybe I overstepped a little bit here and there, but this is just my opinion, based on how I've been treated by. When I was talking about Nancy Reagan and stuff like that, I'm sure that set up a firestorm in the States, and there's going to be people with guns pointed at my head probably if I ever go there. That's okay. You know, everything I said about that is my opinion, based on my experience. And actually, everything is based on my experience, and it's my opinion of my reflections of being treated this way. So, you know, and again, I certainly complain a lot about medical, you know, legal. There are good, like I said, there's good people in all of it. It's the bad apples that I want to get out. I'm sure everybody else does. You know what? These are the ones, and this streamlined cookie cutter bullshit crap about, oh, well, we're just making it more lawful. Well, like I said, press play. Um, so Justin, come on, let's do this, okay? I'm just under 6 feet. I'm a lot heavier than you, so and we're gonna have gloves on. Believe me, I like to be blustery in that, but I'm a very non-violent person. Of course, if somebody's trying to hurt me, then I'm going to defend myself, and I will do so vigorously. And believe me, I don't believe a damn thing any of you people are saying, and I'm totally not safe here. So, hey, I'm putting the word out. You come after me, and you assault me, I'm going to protect myself. And if that means fighting to the death, if that means the only way I can stop a cop from harming me is rip their throat out and hand it to them on a plate, I guess that's what I'm going to have to do because I'm in danger. This is a threat. This is a real threat, and I'm not talking to the cops. I'm talking to me because I'm of the mind that I am not safe. I have been attacked. I'm still under attack. I'm being criminally harassed to the point of like nonsense. And even to the most point is that I could come on a thing like YouTube and tell people what's going on and ask for help, and there's nothing. Not even outcry. Not even questions like, hey, what if this guy's telling the truth? Like, what if these officers really did this to him? I mean, this is exactly why, under the auspices of public safety and public awareness, and it's a public camera and everything, that we need to get to the truth of this. So having a rule where they allow them to say, well, that's just not evidence because it shows everything this gentleman's telling about us. And again, the very curious thing is that this is a medical event that they created, a medical hold in a mental health court, and yet none of the evidence of that mental health hold is in as evidence. Because if it was in as evidence, number one, because it's a medical hold, you're talking right all the way through it is videotaped and audio taped. And the reason why it's not even entered in as evidence against me is because we could tear their whole case apart just by them entering that as evidence, which they refuse to do. They go, oh no, all we got is this really grainy, it's HD, zoomable. The one at the corner of the courthouse goes directly up to the police services desk at the Waterloo Regional Police Station as well. They have connected communications between both. So the officer at the desk at Waterloo Regional Police, or wherever it is, maybe it's down at Central Services down at Gateway Park, but or both, probably based on their security system and backup systems. The feed would be going to each station as well, because if there's a really big event, well, then everybody needs to know at the same time, and they can look at the camera and go, oh, that's what's happening in real time right now at that courthouse. The whole purpose of that system is for that. So don't tell me it's not taped. And they got as far as, well, we had officer so and so go over and talk to officer so and so who said there's no more tapes. And lo and behold, and that's hearsay evidence. Why wouldn't they have Sergeant so-and-so go, well, here's my affidavit saying there's no more tapes? Because it's all fun and games. It's deliberate. And people need to get a handle of this, the fix is in. And again, how about that lawyer? So if a lawyer goes in and robs a bank, you need to go to Osgood Hall first and ask if he's actually even able to be considered a criminal, because he's a lawyer. And my lawyer, well, it wasn't my lawyer, but the one that was hired specifically to deal with housing again, deliberately pretended he took a retainer. Yeah, I'm here for you, I'm doing all this work for you behind the scenes, come to meet me at here, bring your information in, this is how you have to have it so I can put it in writing for you, blah blah blah. We show up at that hearing and all of a sudden he's going, he sabotaged it. He was supposed to ask about accessibility, and when you talk about accessibility, it's, well, I've got, I need brakes. I need to have the ability to have this tool or this implement in order to show what I'm talking about, or I'll bring it. Like, can I bring my own, and you tell me what's available to hook up? All these things, and this is like since 2000. Well, they started it in 2004. They ratified it in 2010. Intelligence design has been mandatory in Ontario since the early 80s. But between all these things, it's just too confusing for them. So this is why we need these public service announcements. Anyway, boxing match. Come on, Justin. I challenge you. Now, maybe we can get this as a news story, because here's a disabled person who's been beaten up by his country, who's challenging the leader of that country to come and meet me in a fair, with regulations and rules, right? Boxing. No, it's strictly charity. I wouldn't hurt you much. If I got a chance to, maybe I would knock you on your ass, just to teach you a lesson. But no, it's not about that. Frankly, again, if there's any way we can raise awareness, and again, I've been blustery and colorful, but that's because I'm reacting to my take on this experience. And again, even to Justin, I'm sorry. The first thing I would mention to you if I ever met you in person is that I'm real, and this is to your mom too, Margaret, or Ms. Trudeau. I guess I shouldn't take this familiarity with people, especially when I've been saying some of the things I have. The loss of your brother and your son, and especially the way it happened, from the way that everybody spoke about his life and the way that he chose to live it. Good for him. He was definitely a force in this world, and he would have been a lot greater force probably. And from what we all understand, it's a force for good. I've said my things about the Trudeaus and that, and we're talking politics here. I don't even know you. Um, I don't, I only relate and react to what you've been doing in the public eye. As a personal note, and again, I heard how close you brothers were. Um, that's not a, that's not an easy thing to do and to carry on from. And I'm sorry about your loss. Uh, you know, um, what more can be said? And especially the way that it happened, that he's still there. But his spirit's everywhere, I would imagine. It's definitely, you guys are carrying his flame, which is good. And that's what families do, isn't it? At least most families. Anyway, and again, I mean, there is a clear distinction. I do know the difference between the political aspect of it and the personal aspect of it, even though I've been my commentary has been very colorful and heated. Again, that personally is a reaction to the way I feel about the way I've been treated. I'm a non-person. I've been made into a non-entity in my own country, by my country. Anyway, this is a very serious issue. And yeah, I come out strong. And I'm sorry. I mean, I was in the middle of a pain crisis. This is like I said, how do you get through this? How do you move on when I mean, everything that these lying SOBs have done, and especially with my record, because I've got reports that say contrary. And yet the only prevailing thing in my supposed healthcare is this lie that they've been able to perpetrate and that nobody's correcting. I mean, I've got an MRI spec test 1 year, 7 months after the fact, which clearly says that this is a brain injury from that accident. And yet like I said, they go, oh, well, we'll just dismiss that because Dr. Glension, who's the chief of nuclear medicine for all of Hamilton Health Sciences, which I'm sure other doctors in other hospitals go to her for her expertise about reading these things. And she was very upset. She was confused as to why any doctor would do that, which is why she was more than happy to write that letter. And that's when I found out she was the chief of nuclear medicine. I mean, why would they be able to question her on anything? Only because WSIB is involved in every single hospital and every single place that provides services, because there's a little known part of the WSIA which also states if anybody takes $1 from WSIB, they are now under their care and control. And that if WSIB doesn't like the way that they're operating, especially if they're going around telling the truth and not following their little cookie cutter world, that they will shut them down or take them over within 7 days or 7 to 10 days, something like that. And this is law. So we have you're not allowed to do anything as long as they're acting in good faith, and they control the providers. And again, you have to ask yourself, why? The way medicine's supposed to work is that you walk in a hospital, oh my God, this person had an automobile accident, or they were walking down the street, got hit, or they were in a workplace. Why does that matter? At that moment, they're a patient. And the way the law and everything says it works, rules, regulations, and everything else, is that that person is to be treated as a patient. And under the auspices of that patient, again, this is where it comes up that if a doctor, fully qualified doctor, properly and legally able to operate within the province of Ontario and country of Canada, then determines based on no harm, and should be free to do that without an encumbrance, and go, it's sort of like that building code thing, this is the condition of this person as of right here, right now, in context of do no harm, and we're here to preserve life. I mean, wasn't the whole argument against death and dying because of the preservation of life? So here you got that dichotomy again. I mean, if it's in the context of the Supreme Court of Canada, well, then we've got to fight for that life. But on the floor of the ER or any hospital, and again, use your own personal experience. And again, this is not the doctors and nurses. Between the colleges, I mean, the first rule is do nothing that puts the profession into ill repute, especially tell the truth. So, hey, colleges, if I'm full of crap, why don't you take the gag order off of your members? Why don't you allow some of your members to come forward and tell the truth about their experience working in this system, whether or not doctors and nurses that do the right thing are protected, whether or not they feel patients are safe in this environment. You wouldn't do that, would you? Because then the floodgates would open. And again, the whole purpose, I don't know if anybody realizes, but if you do your history checking as far as politics in Canada, Ontario, who's responsible? There's a whole layer of arm's length, do not touch law covered by College of Physicians and Surgeons, College of Nurses, College of Pharmacists, uh, all these associations and everything. Guess who? Technical Standards and Safety Authority, Electrical Safety Authority, all these arm's length places that are associations of or a conglomeration of all the people doing it to say that we're the experts in the field. Like whenever they say, we're going to go ask our experts, who do you think they're talking about? It's the stakeholders, the ones that are ready, they got their forks out and they're ready to have their steak from that cattle they've been moving around. Us, commodity, moo, moo. We're a movement. Cattle's a good one because you ever notice how they're always look like they're under the trees and they're having a very deep conversation, conspiring about how they're going to get out of the mess they're in. And then when cars walk by, you'll see one or two of them go, "Hey, look, they're looking. Okay, look like a cow. Okay, come on, let's do the cow stuff. Moo, moo." You know. And then there's sheep. That's the ones that go out in the world and they're like, bah, bah, bah. Yeah, this is wrong with government, that's wrong with government, everything's wrong with government. Oh my God, government's really bad. We should do something about this government. Oh my God, government, 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 government. And then when the government comes and goes, hey, sheep, come on in, they go, okay, gotta go now. Bye. We're going to be with them because they feed us and they clothe us and they take care of us. Okay, they strip us naked a couple times a year where we're freezing our butts off and we're no longer cute anything because have you ever seen a shaved sheep? Sort of like a wet cat, they're not very pretty. It's actually so cute, it's ridiculous. You laugh because you said they're going, and this is really interesting about human nature. They laugh because look at how helpless and hopeless it looks. That's the true nature of human right. Anyway, yeah. So come on, Justin, come on up. Let me see what else. This is kind of all over the place too. I should write this stuff down. There's a couple people. Anyway, I have to go back over it. Also when I was making the comment about Hitler, and I was saying, Jews, blacks, homos. I am a fully like that is not anything against homosexual, LBGT. What is it? Sorry, it's a brain injury again. And no disrespect. People have their own choices to make in life. And the true thing of freedom is as long as it's not harming anybody else, and that's their belief, I mean, who are you to change their belief? I mean, belief is usually based on experience. And, people are all looking to be happy in this world. And I mean, again, if you're not hurting anybody and whatever, then it's not my place. I mean, we're really not supposed to judge anybody. That's another reason, I mean, I wouldn't want to be a judge. And a lot of them, especially in this environment, a lot of them are, like I said, good people, well intended, and they're doing the best, like I said, with the officer. Anybody in this situation, how long before they get acclimated to the environment they're in and they say, this is my job? Everybody will, because that's what it's designed to do. but we need more continuity. We need some leadership. Hello. Somebody lead us out of this quagmire instead of just exploiting it all the time. We need people, regular people, as stakeholders. I mean, it's really interesting. It's all about us, but we have absolutely no say, especially when we're sitting here going, "Hey, Houston, there's a problem here." They've just taken us out of the equation because we're nothing more than cattle. We're nothing more than the mob, and they just control us. And that's how they do it through schools of thought. The media is the message. You need to get that. And here we are. I mean, is this not a story of relevance for people? Is this not like a proper legal question? Does this not have merit for the news? I mean, yeah, okay, it's kind of, I can understand how the first one is like, well, he's kind of all over the place and blah, 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 and he's reacting and he doesn't look too safe and oh my God, he's kind of scary and, all that stuff. But the real reason why is because they don't want the truth getting out. That the biggest part of this is that this so-called information, and I sent this to Huffington Post, New York Times, a bunch of them in the States, the Wire, and here we are. This is what they're saying. Hey, are disabled people being abused in Canada? Like, or whatever that was, when he's bringing up about, disabled. And they just made an announcement that, oh, well, CPP, oh, well, two-year waiting. Oh, my God, that's just too bad. Well, like I said, check the provinces. Again, Canada Health Act says that, you're not supposed to tell the difference between WSIB and OHIP. There's a bottom line right there. You can call Blue Cross or whatever you want, but I mean, well, actually, I guess under the law, I guess that's what they got, right? Oh, there's that equality thing. Okay, so, and they got this thing called Fair Practices Commission. So maybe that's what it is. I've got it wrong. I'm sorry. It is equal, isn't it? Because they're treating everybody equally, the same. They just ignore those rules and do what the hell they want, right? So that's that English language thing again about the word having two kind of meanings. Well, ask our native brothers and sisters. They know exactly about, because remember those old stupid cowboy and Indian movies? White man speak with forked tongue. Usually a white guy or Italians got a lot of work that way. Anthony Quinn started as an Apache, Navajo, whatever shirt he was wearing, color shirt he was wearing that day. It says, oh, well, depending on the color of the shirt, that said what Indian it was. And by the way, just a history lesson, Indians are from India. Indians from Canada and North America. Wait a minute. That was all North America once. The Great Plains, when they ran things. Anyway, those Indians aren't Indians. They're native, Aboriginal, whatever they choose to call themselves. And usually the name reflected the culture. And that's as with a lot of us when we called ourselves what we called ourselves. But then in comes that regime again. And again, here you go. People ask me, what race are you? You look white. You must be Caucasian. And I go, no, I'm not Caucasian. And they go, what? But you're white. No, my race is human. It's human race. Human, animal, vegetable, mineral. I'm a human. I've know lots of other people of color. They've got different color. Even in my own family, it's multicultural. And they teach you separation, because I didn't even notice when I was a kid in Catholic school back in the 60s that there weren't any black people. I go to a Christmas party, with the Stones and Bacons and whatever, and there'd be people of all different colors, shapes, sizes, and everything else, because that's the kind of family we are. I mean, we were really horny. We went around the world and we had sex with everybody, and everybody had sex with us. So we were spread out all over, sort of like Genghis Khan. Really interesting. Genghis Khan, that A lot of us came from him. You know, they're doing this DNA thing and they're finding out, hey, you know, he conquered more than just battlefields. Eh? Anyway, there's a whole world out there of real information. And all you have to do is look and keep an open mind and stop doing this closed mind thing about letting governments do your thinking for you. You know, you're the type of people that are going to find, you won't know nothing's wrong until all of a sudden they got all those, what do you call them, drones. And all you officers and people that think you're on that side of the law right now, you need to consider this because they're not fully automated yet. And if they have a drone in place of a person, and they're giving an order to a person who might get a conflict of, conscience and go, you know, I don't think I'm going to follow that order because, you know, that's against this and that and this and that and that and this. And I'm reading the situation right here. And the one on the street, I mean, they must have some insight, right? So, no, I think under my uh, ability to have some leeway here that under my best judgment that this will not continue like this. But, you know, then they get a drone and the drone just knows, oh, fire, kill. And the person who's controlling it is not there. He's dejected, detached, and meant to be detached from it because it's like, hey, don't worry, you're just playing Halo 7. Or, it's just think of it as Call of Duty. Yeah, they're just people. They're just little cartoon people. You know, there's nothing to be worried about there. Anyway, do you think that when they get full automated control and they don't need you anymore, what side of this do you think you're going to be on? And the worst part about it is you're going to be on the same side with all those people. You just set up the system to remove them from the equation, and you get to be right beside them as one of them. Because when there's no more need for you, well, then you're no longer a stakeholder. You become the cattle, and you're the steak on the end of the fork, right? Anyway, something to consider. And this is our world. You can blame politicians all you want. You can blame religion. You can blame the legal system and doctors and a whole bunch of other people. You know, but it starts with us. It starts with you. Personal responsibility. That's like I said. We all are responsible. We all need to step up for democracy every day. Charlie Hebdo, Brussels, stuff like that. Everybody's walking around like, oh, it's somebody else's job, somebody else's responsibility. Sorry, still getting over a bit of viral pneumonia. And I'm starting to come back because I'm able to slowly get my medicine, which is starting the cycle of going back into a little bit more livable condition instead of that yelling, screaming, pain-inflicted human being. You know, root word being human being. You know, again, is there any difference between Guantanamo and here? And people need to look at what's going on in prisons, too. When I was at Maplehurst, some of the policies that are going on there, I mean, Abu Ghraib, right here in Canada. Anyway, I do have to also say something else. Because I've been talking about, getting manhandled guards and stuff like that. And people paying attention who are not. There has to be a couple honorable mentions here. Number one, the guards actually at the Waterloo Regional Courthouse are very good, given their training and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure there's other things. The issue with human rights and the thing about disability rights, but I mean, given the lack of training that they receive, there's a lot of good people there, and they do their best. They do their best, and I gotta say, out of all the places that I've gone to, as far as just common sense, courtesy, and respect, definitely most of the people at the Waterloo Regional Courthouse have it. As far as just the officers, I'm not talking about, because you got to understand, even though they're overseen by Court Services, Waterloo Regional Police, they are. And again, where's this dichotomy with the trading? But the ones at the front kiosk, they're not the same as the ones that, again, they're correct when they say they don't work there. They only work at the front desk, which is connected to the police station down the street. Okay, which is, again, why is there no tapes? Well, it's that pesky Ashley Simpson or Ashley Smith thing. Where oh my God, if they look at what they got those tapes there, and that got us into this much trouble. So if we control what happens on the tapes and we say what's evidence, well then they can't come after us because then we control everything. And that's the only thing they got from a public inquiry about Ashley Smith. And again, had they had the proper context of non-medical personnel directing treatment. And why wasn't there full-time? And again, in prisons, they must have full-time psychiatrist on duty or on call. You can have a psychologically trained nurse all you want. Even under the auspices of what's this new one, where we're going to let them make decisions and stuff. No. Because again, the reason why they're doing that is to cover doctors' asses and to cover the system's ass. So that's that liability thing. This person was trained and they signed a piece of paper. Doesn't meet the law though. And this is the context. That's why when they do SIU investigating a person, well, all they're looking at is police procedures. Did they follow the police procedures and the procedures in line right now? And that's the whole problem. Because they're inadequate. They're not even mindful of it. They treat them as a criminal, only as a threat. And 9 times out of 10, these people are mostly threatening themselves because they're trying to be heard. And they're being shut down in every aspect. So where's the freedom? Anyway, that's part of, we're going off topic now. Anyway. Well, it's not off topic. It's all the same thing. But hey, okay, so we're trying to raise awareness. I just challenged the Prime Minister of Canada to a boxing match with a disabled person in order to raise awareness about how disabled people are being beat up by government. And it's just figurative. I mean, we could even just get up there and do a photo op if you want. I mean, I'm sure you're really afraid of me. I mean, you've had a lot of training. You handle Brazo pretty good, but I mean, it wouldn't be too politically correct if they saw a picture of you punching me in the face too, right? Even though metaphorically you're doing it at every level of government. Anyway, I'm going to come out again with more. I was trying to cover my bases as far as, again, LBGT, it's because that's what they called them. I was referring to the context of what I was talking about when they used to call everybody homo. I mean, there was a lot more people that got killed in those gas chambers than just the chosen ones. And a little note about the chosen ones, I don't want to get into religion because you know what? The bottom line is this: you believe in your God, I'll believe in my God. I'll live my morality, you live your morality, and one of us, it says right in the Bible, not everybody's going to make it. Not everybody does, and this is what I like about Islam because I've studied different types of religions, base religions everywhere, and the basic thing of Islam is number one, you don't put a face to your God, and because then it becomes idol worship, and also this ties in with Christianity, the answer of Christ, and this is very important. When they asked him, but you say you're the Son of God. You say you're this. You say you're that. And what was his answer? It is you who say, I am. Now, where else do you get those 2 words together? I am. Oh my God, Moses. So Moses is there, and he just came out of everything he did. He goes up on a mountain, the story goes, and he meets a burning bush, which some people think was a UFO or whatever. I mean, does it really matter? The idea, and this is all to fictionalize your beliefs because your beliefs are just fiction. Anyway, that's a personal dilemma you have to work through, and that each one of us has to work through. So, whatever works for you, I guess, and whatever works for me. Anyway, so he goes up there and he's like, well, everybody's wondering who you are and how do we define you? you know, and he says, well, here's 10 rules, which are basically don't be an asshole, you know, don't be selfish. You know, if you poke your finger in somebody's eye, say you're sorry, especially if you mean it. You know, treat other people the way you want to be. I mean, Jesus came down and clarified it. There's these 10 rules, which are very interesting, especially thou shalt not kill. Because it doesn't say thou shalt not kill people. It doesn't say thou shalt not kill animals. It doesn't say thou shalt not kill plants. It says thou shalt not kill. Period. And why is that? Because if you look further in this book, or these books, or whatever, it says, well, because if you're harvesting plants, this is the way you're to live their life of living things, whether it be plant, animal, right? You're supposed to give them the best life that they can, you know, and then it's not killing if you deal with them in the appropriate manner as described. Such as when you harvest an animal, you give honor to its spirit, and this is what we're supposed to do. We are caretakers of this land, of these things. Not, you know, and then there's these other people who go, but it says we got power over them. Again, power without integrity, there's no authority. It's just power, and power's easy. I mean, you see, there's lots of exploits through history that say what power can do. But the real power comes from within, because, like I said, the one thing I realized through this whole thing is I'm going, you know, and when I found, you know, I finally figured out the law doesn't protect anybody but the law, and it's a shakedown. You know, okay, so you start questioning, well, what is it that keeps me in line then? I mean, you know, I've got the military training, and there's so many things that could, you know, I could have chosen to go, you know what, screw this, I'm going to go and charge the parliament because that's where the enemies of democracy are, and I was just so damn well trained that I'm just going to go do what I think my job is. Especially when I'm down here after going in that arena of war and being given the mantra that, oh, we're all on the same team, and yeah, we're here for you until you get hurt. And every soldier out there that ever served knows what I'm talking about. I mean, remember, they taught in military school about Romans. You know, when you're talking about war, it's always about the Romans and the Greeks and Sun Tzu and other, you know, epic battles, but it's battle techniques and stuff like that. You know, back in those days, you know, here's one page they should take from the Romans. Back in the day, if somebody was a Roman soldier, it didn't matter if you were a foot soldier, and those were the ones that usually didn't make it out, were the grunts. But nothing's really changed, right? There's certain things. Once you're a military man, you're the same as a piece of furniture or a bullet. You're just expendable. You know, you're just a resource. Again, not a stakeholder. That's the officers and NCOs. They're the stakeholders, right? And the ones at the real top. Anyway, you know, so they used to give even the foot soldiers lands. They would come back and whether injured or not, because of their sacrifice, because of their loyalty to their country and their mantra, they were rewarded. You know, they would come back and they would be given accolades, and they would be given a special stripe on their robe so that if they're walking down the street, people know, wow, that guy, okay, that guy needs to be honored because he was one of our protectors, protectors of the realm, protectors of the faith, protectors, you know, whatever. But they were given respect and honored for their service. Generals and that were given lands with slaves. A lot of these soldiers were allowed to keep their prisoners as slaves or chattels and be able to sell them and everything else. So, you know, they treated soldiers better back then. But for some reason, everything about keeping it for the upper echelon and that is preserved. But when it comes to the sacrifice of the man in the foxhole that has to field strip his weapon in the dark and hope that nothing gets, you know, lost, because that's the difference between life and death. And while he's doing that, there might be some, you know, mortars coming in or something, bullets flying past his head. He might watch his best friend who he just went through training from, and they train you. It is you and the guy next to you. That and your training and that is what's going to save your life in those arenas. And when you're under the arena, I mean, for Christ's sakes, everything's coming down around you. Then you find out that you're not protected, and you come home, and they're doing things like, "Oh, well, thanks for your service. Yeah, here you go. You're going to get 2 years of we're pretending to make it look good, and then after that 2 years, you just cut loose." And then you become one of those statistics that are like, "Oh, well, Harper has." People are going, "Oh my God, we're outraged. Look at what you're doing to our soldiers that came home fighting for democracy, and they were harmed physically, mentally, spiritually." And here you are, you're treating them like a piece of shit. Oh, no, that commodity again. Here, let me ask you again. How many wounded veterans are considered stakeholders when designing policy for these things? I mean, you think that they would have some relevant information to give as being the person who's experienced it from all sides. I mean, this is what my government tells me, and then I come back and find out. Much like, and this started in Vietnam. Because they were getting bad press in Vietnam. These soldiers would come home and they were getting spit on. They were probably in their foxhole screaming louder than we were to say something's freaking wrong here. And they come home and they're the ones who are given the mantle to carry. In addition to everything else. And what, you think our Canadian soldiers are different? Like I said, I'm clarifying about what I said about that poor gentleman who felt he had to rush the Parliament buildings. And the way that every single political party, including Mr. Trudeau, sat there and used it as a means to put forward the agenda instead of seriously looking at why did this happen. And not only that, how did it happen? Because we only got some of the images on CTV and stuff like that where it showed this gentleman was in full combat, like OD Greens. He was carrying a weapon in front of him. And he got from the sidewalk in front of the Parliament buildings, not only all the way up the yard, but in the front door and in the door. That's because he was allowed to have that happen. Then there was the questions about, well, there was a car chasing him and accidentally hit a child. And RCMP refused, or whoever was in that car was going, well, it's official business and I don't have to tell you anything. Because apparently they were tracking him from the border or wherever he went. He went a couple places first. Then he got pissed off enough that he went to the Parliament buildings. And why? Because, well, like I said, best trained soldiers in the world. The mantra is, we are here to fight the enemies of democracy. So I would assume and guess, especially with everything going on in the culture those days, because look at how they were treating his brothers, and these are the ones that you rely on, and you're taught. It's you, the guy next to you, and the guy next to him, and that's all you got out there, and you have to rely. The whole thing is around building that unit. And that camaraderie, and then they bring them back, and what, you don't think they're going to fight for their brothers? Especially when the mantra, they come back and they probably found out they were guarding opium fields, poppy fields, and they were trying to put forward an agenda in a place where it had never been put forward, like they tried it before and it never worked. The Russians were there for what, 10, 15 years, wasting their time? Anyway, everybody has their own feelings about war and stuff like that, but and it all comes back to the same thing: the lies that our governments tell us. So this is why independent citizen is the most important thing. And if you're paying attention again, the one thing that they're messing with on every front in every democratic electoral process is the ability to register to vote. Because they know it's about one person, one vote, majority rules. And you know what? The disenfranchised, again, this thing about where I'm saying, where we should put none of the above on the ballot because again, 60% or more stay home, which means that they're registering a vote by doing that. It's just there's nowhere to put it. And if there was a place where they could put it, that 60% or majority of them would probably come out, because at least that way it's telling somebody something that's useful. So you're not going to be electing the horse and pony show going in. But instead of spoiling a ballot, wouldn't it be great if we had a place to say, I don't really agree with the direction of any of these people, and I think you need to go another direction. So when he says, I got 30% of the vote, and that gives me a mandate to move forward with my full agenda, which I never even talked about during the election, because the whole idea is just to say whatever until you get in, and then you go, okay, now we're the government, so we can do what we want, in spite of what we told you. Here's that electoral, again, it's rules and regulations to fit them, not society. Anyway, lots to talk about. Again, it's to spur conversation. And it's to raise awareness about what's really going on in this so-called free country called Canada. The mess that everybody's in because of this Westminster style of, hey, you're privileged, you're above the law. And, again, Chief Justices and everyone else, I don't give a crap about your court. And there's no authority there. So what are you going to do? You're going to go through this mock trial. You're going to pass down a sentence. And I'm going to sit there and go, well, because my whole thing here is 13 years of this horse shit. Bullface lying right from the people that are supposedly here to protect us. The only question I need to answer here is this court of any use to me whatsoever? And I already know the answer is no. It's of no use to me. It's something that I'll never use again. So a cop from now on, I guess I'm left with my moral dilemma of, I guess next time maybe I'll be standing on the street. Maybe I'll witness that bank robbery or murders or stuff like that. And maybe I'll just sit there and say, I'm sorry, but you told me I can't make a statement. Maybe I'll accept what they've put me into. I'm sorry, I'm disabled. I can't make a statement. I have absolutely nothing to offer. I'm not sure that my personal morality would allow me to do that. But, if this is the example that they're setting. But like I said, next time I have an issue, I'm not going to be calling a cop. I won't call a cop at all. Because that'll just muddy the waters. Maybe I'll just sit there and do what they do. I'll take the law in my own hands. Because that's what they're professing, right? Either it works for all of us or it doesn't. And, if I'm left with the impression that, gee, I'm the only one protecting me, I have a right to defend myself. Maybe I should go that way. Again, this is what choices do you have? And bottom line, again, the only thing that keeps me from doing anything is my morality, my sense of right and wrong. As with everybody else, that's why you sit there and go, well, much like the system, well, that rule works for me and this one doesn't. So I'll just pay attention to that one, kind of, until it doesn't work for me. And then this one over here, I'll just disregard, because that's the example they're setting. This is law and order. Anyway, it's questions. Again, this is a metaphorical thing for the court. Again, what other way should I take it? Anybody in their right mind. If the law's there, not for me, certainly done nothing to protect me. Look at the mess that you put me in. I'm a non-person in my own country. I've got a birth certificate that says I'm a citizen, that I've got these full rights, when it really appears that all it is the right to be abused, misused, screwed over, lied to, and you're supposed to sit there and go, oh, please, sir, more. Sort of like, Oliver in the movie when you go up for more gruel. It's really crappy tasting and it's gruel, but please, sir, can I have some more? Cultural identities. Anyway, I'm not going to do another 2-hour thing here. It was just to try and raise awareness. I'm going to send this one out to the news agencies. Hey, any information stations out there want to get some publicity? Don't you think it'd be good, a disabled guy challenging our prime minister to a boxing ring match because I'm tired of getting beat up out of the ring? Let's just do it for real to raise some money and awareness, eh? You know, Alan, anybody, hey guys, you know, I mean, like anybody who can help spread the word about this nonsense. And I'm not talking about what I'm talking about. Maybe it's open for opinion. Please leave your comments. Please start the discussion. If you believe anything of what I'm saying and you think it's concerned, go to your MPP. Go to your MP. Call Justin Trudeau and say, hey, Justin, I know you're a feminist and all that, but how about a disableist? Oh, he's already a disableist. Maybe undisableist. Indisable? Well, again, it's open for discussion. Hey, why do we come up with a word? I'm looking at getting these maple leaves done uh, with the white piping, or is it white with the blue piping? I can't remember. Anyway, we're going to get these. Now, the reason why the maple leaf's upside down is because if anybody knows anything, especially this is a military thing too. It's a universal sign of there's something's wrong. You know, so usually if you got captured by the enemy and there's lots of walls there and your people don't know you've been captured, the idea is to try and put the flag upside down so at least from a distance they know, oh, something's wrong. Okay, we're going to do something about this. It's a universal distress call. Anyway, so maple leaf turned upside down in the colors of the disabled person. I'm looking at getting this done and designed. Maybe we could use it as a main logo in order to raise awareness and money. Certainly allow other persons with disabilities who feel they're being treated like a piece of garbage and whatever, that you can use it in content, you know, in camaraderie with the rest of us, and we can use it as a symbol to raise awareness. Sort of like when the Jews were made to wear their little symbol because they were marked. Well, it's along the same idea. Anybody who's not disabled, feel free. I mean, maybe we'll use it to raise awareness and money and in order to keep this thing going. Um, anyway, once we come out with it, the suggestion would be anybody who's not disabled, go ahead, feel free to wear it, but only the disabled can wear it in the upside down position. Maybe what we could do, and we don't want to right side up until this is fixed, until this is made actually part of law. You know, where they don't just talk about it, they actually practice what they preach. So maybe what they could do is wear it sideways. Anyway, we're going to come up with a logo and a design. We're also trying to formulate this idea of a new party. Of course, I'm not the only person there. I'm trying to discuss it out there. Anybody else feel like we're being treated like cattle? That there's stakeholders who eat the cattle and the rest of us are just fodder for them to play with? If you feel that way, like I said, Independent Canadian Citizens Party, I don't know, is that even taken? The idea is that I'm an independent Canadian citizen, and I believe in what I believe, which is this is we frame what we want to have happen, in spite of them, and based on one person, one vote, majority rules. If we get the majority, that certainly says what the people want. So the idea behind it is Independent Canadian Citizens Party, and when you vote for that party, like let's get our everything, whatever you call that, philosophy and all that, based on true democracy, and not based on lies. And then we sit there and we say, basically once we come up with our platform and everything, when you vote for Independent Canadian Citizens Party, you're not just voting for the party, you're voting for yourself, because this is what I want. And like I said, what should happen is voter registration should go up. Support for these other half-assed, let's keep playing first past the post so we could see who abuses you, who's first in line to abuse you, and the system and the law. What you do is you start taking your political contributions from them. You stop supporting them, and you put it behind the Independent Canadian Citizens Party, or whatever it ends up being called. Because again, when you support that, when you support this party, it's about independent Canadian citizens that are saying this collective bullshit isn't working anymore. And we can have, I mean, the discussion isn't supposed to be about talking points and then they frame our desires in their talking points. It's about, what do we want? What kind of world do we want? And it's built up to consensus. I mean, this is a new political idea, I know that, but anyway, it's built up through political consensus. and you formulate this is the bottom line, and that's what you get. So if we say, you know what, the first job of this, and this should be the mainstay of the, at least I believe should be the mainstay of our principle, would be no more privilege. That, I mean, obviously you can't do certain things without privilege, but privilege in the sense of how they're seeing it today, which is, oh, it's my privilege to be arm's length above the law, therefore I can do whatever I want because the law can't touch me. Obviously that's, and privilege is good, but only in the right hands and in the right minds that understand it and that respect it as a privilege. It's a privilege to serve people. Jack Layton knew that. Jack demonstrated that. Whether he was a city councilor for Toronto, actually, I think he started on committees and stuff first, and then worked his way. Oh, I'm going to be a councilor, and this man came up from the trenches at every level of government, and you know what? You could trace his career back as far as you want. He never changed the way he acted. He was riding his bike in Toronto. They tried to give him perks when he became the official, like when he got his seat. And they're going, here, have a limo and stuff. And he's like, no. I don't know. I don't know personally, but all I know is that he was turning down perks. He's going, do I need that to do what I need to do? I think that's where he started. And if he didn't, he's like, you know what? That's fine. You keep that perk. Because I'm not here for perks. I'm not here for all this stuff. I mean, if the perk is going to help me facilitate what I need to do for my constituents, well, then that's acceptable. That I might be able to live with. But anything else, he sat there and he went, if it's just a perk, no, I don't need it. Because he got it. We need more people like that instead of these ones that go, well, I'm privileged, so I can do it. And here, I got a question for the Attorney General of Ontario. Again, this is your system. All you people in the legal community, this is your system. You designed it. You enable it. You empower it. We all just get the privilege of trying to work within it and get it to work for us, which obviously it's not anymore. You don't have to look far to find out this legal system's in trouble, and it has been for a long time. And you guys seem to think that all you got to do is, it's like the dike mentality. Well, it's leaking. Let's just stick look, it's leaking more. Well, put it in further. Eventually you stick your finger in the hole in the dam where the mic is. You're actually causing damage, not holding it. But you guys don't know the difference of where we are. And no, dike isn't anything to do with lesbian, gay, whatever. I'm actually physically talking about a physical dam. So again, sorry, that's political correctness again. I mean, hey, whatever starts off the firestorm to go, hey, this is a national or international. I mean, if you want to call me a bigot or whatever and do that, then hey, let's go. As long as it gets to the forefront. But anyway, again, people can do what they want. It's between you and your God. And if you're wrong, well, I guess you're just not going to make it. And that's your belief. So I guess it doesn't hurt anybody, does it? Till the end. But anyway, I have my personal relationship with God is personal. Especially after this. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's a God. And benevolent. Anyway, it's all about us learning about humility and how to live together. And the only way you can do that is to reduce self or see self, value of self in others. Which is why, again, no false gods. Why? Because then you become, I mean, look at us. We're worshiping ourselves. You don't put the face of Christ there, because if you're really looking for Christ and if you're really living as a Christian, when you look for the face of Christ, you should see your own. Maybe that's the message from God. You don't need, it's like Romper Room. Remember Romper Room when she used to have the mirror at the end? She'd go, I see Jimmy, and I see Timmy, and I see Silly, and whatever. She has a brain injury again. I get stuck on a tiny tangent there. Anyway, the idea is the same thing. And all this stuff is in judgment of others. The other thing too, people keep talking about, gee, is the Bible real or not? Well, I suggest you turn to the opening pages, and it says King James Version. Is that a clue that it's not all God's word? That it's been bastardized? Sort of like this court thing, where it says, well, here's the words that we abide by, but here's the actions we actually carry out. Anyway, religion, you got to remember there's a difference between faith and religion. Faith is what you have. Faith is what you live by. Religion is meant to be community and sharing of those values, but what it's turned into is something other. Personal anecdotes. It says in the book of Revelations, we are legion, we shall be many. Well, let's see, what did the Romans use to control people? Legions. And Constantine, who's responsible for Nicene Creed, and also the amalgamation of the proper books of the Bible, proper definition. They also started the campaign of killing anybody and everybody who had direct knowledge, so that therefore they can control the. Anyway, that's a whole other history lesson. Just pay attention. We're living history right now. A lot of people are like, oh well, Kim Kardashian got a new pimple on her butt. Oh look, Chloe went through McDonald's. She gets Pepsi. You got Kanye and them probably spend millions of dollars to keep their stupidity in the papers. They got a publicist, and that job is, hey, spend millions of dollars. Let's figure out new ways we can get them in the paper. You go to the homepage of Simpatico, and they got news and kind of fluffy stuff, mostly fluffy stuff, and then they even have ads that are made to look like news. Like it's information. The ideas, and it's really fun. I love those ones where they go, okay, so tell me what happened, and they stick the mic in the person's face and they say, my name's Jim, and this is what, and then all of a sudden they paraphrase. They got the guy there. He already they're there. They have the footage. And they ask the guy, well, here's a very serious issue or person. And they go, please give us your comment. And they go to give their comment, and all of a sudden they cut them off and paraphrase their comment. And, hi, this is Sandy, report to you from Kitchener. They don't do that anymore. Usually it's like, hi, I'm at Schneider's in Kitchener. Or whatever. You watch the news and they tell you, they just talk at you. And they go, okay, now you guess what, who, what, why, when, where was. That's why my big thing is now is that news is information. All they do is, whoa, 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 what? That's the 5 W's now. Whoa, 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 what? Whoa, 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 what? Oh, that's 6. Okay, anyway. But hey, they look good on paper. Anyway, yeah, it's not. Oh, 122. Okay, I'm done here. Anyway, Justin, let's get on the gloves. We can do a big photo op. You can bring out your feminist side. What's working in the news for you these days? Obviously, truth isn't, because if you were again, hey, I guess disabled don't matter, AJ. Hey, Justin. Let's start the political conversation. I'm a little bit less painful now, so I guess I can tone it down a bit. Again, it's about this thing about the court, though. Oh yeah, we're accessible. Anyway, serious issues. I mean, again, this is going to get a lot more serious because I'm about to go throw it on international level, and if I have to resign my citizenship on the spot to make this totally international incident, to make sure I get an international lawyer and we put this in the proper context, well, I have no problem doing that. I guess you're going to have to throw me in jail, and I'll resign my British citizenship because I'm dual citizen. So I'll be a true citizen of the world then. We'll test all these international laws right here, right now, because you know what? Like I said, this Constitution isn't worth the paper it's written on. They seem to think it's a bill of sale. They seem to think that we are some sort of cattle and chattels that they could just lie to and move around on the chessboard and whatever. You pulled the wrong SOB across that threshold when you infringed on my international human rights law. and created a criminal terrorist act upon a citizen of Canada. So, and this court's already demonstrated that it is anything but lawful. So the next time I go, and I told you, I'm not taking your abuse anymore. You know, you using my disability against me to make me wait till the end of the day so I'm in the middle of a pain crisis so you could, it's exactly what the cops did. You know, your pattern of abuse is there. It is plain to see. You talk out of one side of your mouth while you practice out of the other. Oh, I've got all these rights. I have the right to face my accuser. I have the right to have it written down. I have the right to save workplace. I have a right to be safe in the hospital. I've got all these rights. But again, like I said, they all went out the window the minute you call me worker. Read the document. Oh, equality rights and all that until you say Aboriginal. Until you say woman. And especially when you say worker. As soon as you say worker, all of a sudden I go to the hospital and a doctor's prevented from doing his job unfettered. He gets to continue as long as he stays in this little box called the framework. And the framework has protected itself, even to the point where, like I said, with hospitals, they're not even tracked. They are so focused on per user visits that I had 3 visits that were more than 3 visits that are all connected to this brain injury, and they were so busy. Well, we already got billed and paid for that. So that's in the past. That's not even connected to, it's a basic thing. I mean, if they're interfering with a doctor's and WSIB, the whole point of it is not to give your full record. Is to only give what, once we discovered that, we started bringing the records with us to these meetings so that they would have them. And they still cherry picked. There was enough evidence of criminal wrongdoing in there that under any auspices, if it was about the patient, they would have called the cops immediately. But then what are they doing? Calling the police on themselves for not acting in good faith when the whole thing's supposed to be in good faith. Do yourself a favor, look up those 3 words, because you will become clear that there's no such thing. And if there's no such thing as in good faith, there is no integrity. If there is no integrity, there's no authority. It's only power and the illusion of integrity. So like I said, one person, one vote, majority rules. Let's decide what it is we want. Vote for yourself. Because you vote for that party, once we get it going, that's what you're doing. I'm voting for me and what I want. And you know what? If you're standing over there with your green party, your red party, your blue party, your orange with pink polka dot party, you know, whatever the hell you want, if you're standing over there, you do your rhetoric, you do your crap, you do your little games and everything, and we'll sit here, we'll say, you know what? Okay, here's our party. A Canadian will never spend more on a gallon of gas than an American ever again. All public, okay, what's public trust? Public trust is defined, like, and again, ask a politician this because they don't have a clue. Public trust is actually it's a figurative speech about all the assets that are held on behalf of the public, such as public utilities. And again, you got to ask yourself, why are they privatizing all this stuff when it was set up for the public? Because it's about profit. We are commodities. We are the mob. They are the stakeholders. We are the state. Sorry. Everything that they're doing. It's in everything. But hey, just pay attention or go back to sleep. Keep your nose down. Keep grinding that stone. And the next time you look up, there's going to be drones there, no more cops, and everything everybody's been telling you is going to be true. You're not going to own a damn thing. You're going to find out you've been in a prison the whole time. Prison of your mind. Because you don't mind, do you? If you don't mind, well then I guess you're going to end up exactly where you want to be, right? Anyway, blind trust only makes you blind. A brain was given to you in order to use. The English language is more than just something to be spewed out of a mouth. You should be listening to some of it. And believe it or not, some of us do have something to say. So anyway, hey Justin, I'm going to start practicing now. I'm going to see if I can get my hands up above my shoulders and hold them there. That's before I even get what I forget how many ounces those gloves are. But anyway, again, it's probably just for show anyway. But I challenge you to come out and show your face on this issue. And I'd like to hear your comments on this issue. I'm sure a lot of Canadians would. I mean, please join my channel. I'm sorry about the long length and it jumps all over. I'm going to have to try and come up with a better plan to get things out. I will be coming out and I'm going to start calling it Chris Bacon, the brain injured guy, sensibility or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna lend my services to. You can use that as bedtime story or just during the day. Maybe when you're driving in your car, judges, you'll be able to listen to this. I'm going to provide a public service. So I will be taking one of the documents. I will be reading in its entirety, and it will be without comment. Well, I'll try my darndest. I might do one about comment afterwards, but no, this one here, I just want to make it a public service announcement. So it'll be the same as when I was reading Narnia to my kids. So forgive the voices, if I end up going into a voice of a third party or something like that, or doing cartoon voices for the animal. Oh yeah, the animals are all in Ottawa. Anyway, so I'll do a public service announcement. Please feel free, listen to it. I'll be reading it in its entirety. So this is exactly the same document that these judges and lawyers and everybody look at to say, hey, this is how we measure what is accessibility. Okay, so and maybe I'll do that for the UN Protocol on Disability Rights too, or one of the. I mean, they're really long acts, and it's going to take a lot of water and a lot of time, and that's going to be a lot more than 2 hours. Anyway, you get the idea, right? I'm trying to give them the tools that they need to do the right thing, but I mean, they've all had tools, and they all know how to use them. I mean, we've been using tools since we came out of the caves, right? Anyway, quest for knowledge, I don't know, maybe you do it that way, but it'll be a public service announcement. So the next time I come on here, I'm hoping it'll be for reading that document. Anyway, I'm almost at the point where I might be able to do that. Look at that, an hour and 30 minutes. Thank you for your patience, and I hope this finds everybody well. Stay safe out there, and believe me, the only one who's looking out for your safety is you. You can be ignorant and go back to sleep, or you can wake up and start doing something about it. But like I said, it's time we all stand for democracy. These people go and fight for us. They fight for our right, and what do? We like to whine and complain, but we don't stand up. It's time for each of us to stand and deliver. It is all of our responsibility. And until you start thinking that way, then they will always win. Divide and conquer. I mean, look what's out there. The whole reason why they're setting off, Donald Trump, the whole purpose Donald Trump is there is the same thing as what happened in Canada. It's shiny ball distraction policies to get your ire up so that you'll sit there and say, you know what, I'm just pissed off and I'm not going to do it. So they've got it as a strategy. What's the one thing that they're interfering more than anything else is people's availability and ability to register to vote. Why? Because one person, one vote, democracy rules. In the United States, you have the Koch brothers, many others. I mean, there's actual representatives on the floor of your legislature touting treason from the floor. It says right in the Constitution that no person shall have favor over another, and yet they're going, well, I spend more money on this than you. They're doing it openly because there's nobody there to stop them, right? Wrong. All you have to do is independent American Citizen Party, stop sending in to the Democrats, stop sending in to the Republicans. If they see their coffers start, voter registration go up, the coffers start going down because we're not supporting political parties that just waste my time anymore. Here is a real grassroots political movement based on the basic principles of democracy, which wouldn't that be a slap in their face if we used their rules against them to take back our democracy? Hey, who thinks the banks are operating improperly? I do. Hey, well, let's come up with a policy. and we say, hey, this is our policy for banking. Like, number one, IMF, go pound salt. The one thing every single, you want to get out from under this, the first thing you do is start printing your own money. And anybody who tells you differently, you tell them to go to hell. You're out of there. Sorry. And again, this is our legacy. We can. I mean, what is the thing about and the world's going to end? Oh my God! Well, what's the world as we know it? Should it continue? Maybe it's us who decides. Like I said, this is our time. One person, one vote, majority rules. Stop letting them tell us what the talking points are. We sit there and say, hey, you had your agenda, you had your talking points. Here's what's going to happen when they vote for us. So registration goes up. Financial support goes down for those parties, and we support the independent Canadian citizen or American citizen or Greek citizen or British citizen or whatever. You could do this all over the world. And green, well, hey, that'll be part of it, wouldn't it? I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm not the guy who's making up all the rules. It's time to start the discussion, say, this is what we want. Here's our agenda for the next 10, 20 years. And of course, you can't do transition right overnight, but I mean, like, hey, how about this? How about manufacturers from now on? You're not allowed to, everything that you make is your responsibility from the time you conceive it to the time it goes bye-bye. So if I've got a Sony Walkman and I need to get rid of it, it's going back to Sony. And Sony is required to deal with the disposal of that product and any costs associated with it. Packaging. I mean, if you sat there and said, hey, packaging, well, you got the option to bring it back to, like, as you walk out the store. Leave the packaging there. Or make it responsible that, hey, Sony, you just wrapped that Walkman, so you're responsible for the packaging too. It doesn't end up in a landfill site. It comes back to you for reclamation. And you're required to deal with it because, hey, let's go back to why is a corporation considered to be an individual? They have the rights and responsibilities of the individual, and yet everybody keeps touting about their rights, but nobody makes them do their responsibilities. Like, I guarantee you, if one of us as a citizen walked up to our legislature, took our pants down, and took a crap right on the sidewalk, not only would you be charged for the act, but you would be responsible for cleaning it up, or the cost of cleaning it up. But for some reason, you call yourself a corporation and you can go put a crap on the sidewalk and then leave it there for everybody else to discuss about how we're going to clean it up. And then you go out of business and you go, well, now I just can't afford to clean it up, so now it's all on you. I mean, they still have most toxic site in America is from making parts of the bomb in World War II. That's 1950s. And it's what, 2016? And what, the company's out of business now and nobody's cleaning it up because, well, I'm not going to do it. It's not my responsibility. And it's poisoning people and water and everything else around that whole area. And the law, I bet, 3 Mile Island. How about all these oil spills and that happen around the country? Anyway, something to consider. Independent Citizens Party, let's make our talking points. This is what we want. We want fair banking. We want to take care of these assholes on Wall Street once and for all. We want, what do we want? We want no war, whatever you want. We want doctors and nurses to be able to operate freely within Hippocratic Oath. Because if they're allowed to, I mean, it's all this interference that's allowed to go on that's costing the money, that's costing the lives. And what, for profit? Again, stakeholders, and we're the state. Let's start a movement. Whenever we're at rallies, hey guys, maybe we can start this now. Whenever you're at a rally or something and they're talking crap, just go moo. You can do it. You don't even have to move your head. But you know what? If you start doing that and it comes from this part of the that they won't be able to tell where it's coming from. So you can actually have a way of dissent without being attacked, unless it's the guy beside you. You know, where this is a way to express discontent without, it's kind of funny too, isn't it? And it's very, it gets a point home because right away you hear moo, you know that everybody's going, hey, this is just another one of those stakeholders that are talking about cattle again. There's different ways to express. Now, the only way that, do it non-violently. Gandhi had the right idea. Non-violent. And hey, maybe that's what this is going to take. Maybe we're all going to have to just sit down, take a week off, because I guarantee it take no less than 3 days. If everybody stopped paying their bills, and slavery is economic. Let's prove it. Just for 3 days, just go, and we'll do it worldwide. Rolling strikes, where if you don't agree with the general way that the government's going and all this crap, and you need it, it's time to change things. Like no more talk, no more promises. Let's do this because that's all you need is the will. And if we get, I believe, all around this world, if we get one person, one vote, majority rules, you got registration going up in every electoral district, and you see support for the regular lesser of the two evils falling down. And again, you vote for lesser of the two evils. I mean, evil is evil, and you're giving them the impression in the mind that it's okay to be that way. Anyway, so let's do this. I believe that we do this and we say, hey, this is how we want it. We change this whole world in one fell swoop right around the world. And wouldn't that be great if Canada was the first place to do it? Right now, the states are in a position, so you guys can start sending the message. Go register to vote, but don't, I don't know how you're going to do this because they're all evil down there. But the idea is, spoil your ballots. Let's make it a campaign. Let's tell them straight up. If there's a spoiled ballot done in this way, like take a big black magic marker. I'm sure you're allowed to bring your own marker in. So here's a good idea on how to spoil the ballot, to say this was our mark, to say this is what it really means. Go get a black magic marker, one of those magic pens, and just strike out, do a line right through all of them. Just black out all those spots where you're supposed to do your mark. And the electronic one, I don't know how you do that. Just spoil the ballot in a specific way. We'll have to come up with a plan on what it means to spoil the ballot, because at least, even if they don't take into account that this is none of the above, we don't agree crap, if we make it politically that this is the mark, and we could sit there and go, well, how many of those marks were there? Because that is the only way. So we've got an identifier that everybody uses across the board on these ballots as a method of striking it down and saying this ballot doesn't count. So if all of a sudden they got like 60% of the ballots all marked in exactly the same way as a spoiled vote, I guess that's kind of telling, isn't it? And it would say, hey, here's a vote for, yeah, I want that none of the above on there. And again, none of the above, you're not voting for who's getting it. You're just saying, you know what, I think these are all charlatans. I don't agree with the way that any of this is going. And I think you all need to check your head at the door and make a redress to this. And then maybe they'll sit there and go, well, okay, we don't have the full support, so maybe we'll go out there and ask them, well, exactly what do you mean? Anyway, there's ways this can be solved. And all we have to do is stand up and do it. If we have voter registration turn up, money go down for them, and it all gets support behind Independent Citizens Party or whatever it happens to be called once we search the name, every political party out there is going to get the message. You'll see them start to change their tunes even before we get to the election, because that's what they do. They're chameleons. The difference in this is that we're not a chameleon. We're the start and the end of it. So if we decide what principles we're voting for under this independent citizens movement, And again, don't overreach. You want to start small, and as we go, it's the idea that the paradigm has shifted, the paradigm has changed, that you're no longer in control. These people who are sitting there doing this puppet show like House of Cards or something, they think that's how it works. Um, and we can start attracting good politicians who've been trapped in their political quagmire of their personal traps, political traps. We need to enable. We need to give a means, and this is how you do it. I think. So, like I said, you want to end war? Hey, maybe we all decide to end war. The minute we come to power, guess what? The war is outlawed. We want a level economic playing field. Well, privilege has to go first. And gee, all we have to do is, hey, corporations are entities like individuals. Individuals have rights and responsibilities. So it's time that they've gotten all their rights down. But the part about responsibilities, oh my God, they're like, so all we got to do, it's already in law. It's already there. I mean, that's the biggest lie that they like to tell you, is that it's not there. Oh, well, we have to change a whole bunch of laws. Like this thing with WSIB. None of them are acting in good faith. You got the labor board, the WSIB, every aspect of government not doing their duty under law, which is what they're sworn to do. So yeah, we do have the wherewithal to do it. All we got to do is demand that they do it right and put it in a court. Because, like I said, I believe the law's already set up. These employers and hospitals and everybody else, I should be able to take into any criminal court because none of them are acting in good faith. So therefore, if they're not acting in good faith, the no right of action does not apply because it's clear. It's only one sentence. That part of the act, I don't have the number right now, but it clearly says there is no right of action if they act in good faith. So if an employer is allowed to operate, they've got tutelage of their lawyer. And again, who's that lawyer? Because isn't it also understood that a lawyer is allowed to use the law, but they're not allowed to use the law to knowingly break the law? So that's like, and the other thing too, non-disclosure agreements, something people need to know. Every single non-disclosure agreement, including the one that Eric Snowden signed for the government, is not allowed to cover illegal activity. The same as with the Constitution, where it says no law or part of a law shall be unconstitutional. A non-disclosure agreement is not allowed to be made to cover criminal activity. So at any time that you're aware of criminal activity, even under a non-disclosure agreement, and it could be the most ironclad non-disclosure agreement in the world, if there is illegal activity going on that is known to be illegal or even considered to be illegal, you are not required to not tell that part of the story. Matter of fact, all law-abiding citizens at all times are required to uphold the law. So if our government officials in that aren't doing it, aren't capable of doing it, are just deciding not to do it, that's a fail-safe in law. So if you've signed a non-disclosure agreement, and you can go talk to a lawyer about this because, well, that's if you trust them. Of course, they might lie to you. But I mean, you know what? If enough of us came out at once and went, you know what? Fuck you. Excuse my French. This is to cover lies, and basically they're asking you to perform a criminal act. If that's covered under your auspices of a non-disclosure agreement, because that's like, I'll just go around, hire everybody, tell them that what they're doing is actually selling ice cream, but really what you're doing is picking everybody's pockets. And you can't say anything because if you say anything, I'm going to sue you. No, like I said, non-disclosure agreements, anything like that is not allowed to cover criminality or breaking the law, period. If that aspect of it is there, you are totally within your right to tell the truth about everything, and there's not a damn thing they can do to you. It's only that part of the non-disclosure agreement becomes null and void. So therefore, that gives you permission to say what you have to say. That's why it's a fail-safe in every non-disclosure agreement. So, there's law books around too. You can go look at these things. Matter of fact, Justice has got a really good website where you can cross-reference stuff. So, it looks like I'm on 2 hours in. I'm not going to do past 2 hours. It's 1:49. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. Justin, let's get this match going. What, you game? Or you just go after senators. You don't want to go after disabled people. You'd rather just beat us up in the courts and in the court of public opinion, right? And put us up for, mark us for death. Allow that to happen. Notice there's nothing in your budget for disabled people or legal. So, hey guys, we need to raise awareness. Public service announcement. Anyway, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. And try and give the comments. Subscribe to the channel. Call an MPP. Come down to the courthouse. Help me demand justice for everybody, because this isn't just for me. If they get away with this, none of us are safe. But hey, you can keep pretending. Okay, anyway. This is Chris Bacon, the brain injured guy, over and out. Getting better every day. Hopefully. Until I'm not, I guess. But that's what it is. You live day to day. You deal with it as it comes. And you know what? Hopefully you don't get more shit on your plate so that you can sit there and have more to chew on instead of just trying to get through the day and get things done. Okay, anyway. Take care. Stay strong. And you are the most important person in a democracy. Because without you, it doesn't work. But you got to stand up. So I'm going to stand up right now. It's hard for me to do because I'm disabled, but you know, do what you can. Stop ignoring the truth. Stop killing yourselves. Okay? I care about everybody. So, like I said, I hope. I just hope. Maybe you can come hope with me, and we could turn that into action. Remains to be seen. Anyway, that's the challenge. Hey, everybody out there, let's all stand up. And Justin, I'm waiting. Hope you take me up on it. Anyway, start a conversation. It's already started without you. You might want to get your 2 cents in. Thank you.